that I thought were key. And this is what we're going to talk about today, because we're going to talk about us and how we as an African people, without any support or encouragement, a little encouragement, but not enough to affect the royalty, how we destroyed Egypt. It wasn't the Europeans. It was us. It was our greed. It was our abuse of spirituality that ruined the Kemetic Empire. Fortunately, our Nubian brothers and sisters and our Ethiopian brothers and sisters were far more advanced spiritually than the Kemites. Now, please know what I'm saying. I'm talking about, it's like I'm comparing New York Africans to, I'm comparing, let's say, Bronx Africans to Queens Africans. That let's use Queens as Ethiopia and Nubia. That the Africans here were more aware of the deepness of the spirituality, but because the Manhattan or the Bronx Africans lived near the Yonkers, Europeans, they had a whole different life system that they had to. The Kemites were fighting everybody. In Nubia, they weren't fighting anybody because there was nobody more powerful to come into Nubia. And it's important to know that every time the Kemetic system was falling, the royalty, the nobility of Kemite, the Ma'anian ones, would return to Nubia and would gather strength and with a new force come forward. Remember what we spoke about civilization, about how no new civilization comes up of its own. Parthenogenesis was used, parthenogenesis, which means to have reproduction without the sexual activity. The same is true for the ancient civilizations. You cannot have a new civilization without a mixing of certain blood. And what happened each time, if you're looking at the Kemetic civilization, you'll watch it die out. At the end of the 6th dynasty, you'll see it dying out. And you'll see Asians come in and overpower and fighting start. And then you'll see a movement of Nubians coming north again and taking over, like Mentuhotep of the middle, who brought the Middle Kingdom into place. The 18th 1, 2, and 3, who came back and had more power. What you'll be looking at is us making errors. And it's important because this is where I many times get flack. Because we as a people get very involved in the beauty and the wonder of Africa. And we don't want to look at where we made our mistakes. And if we do not look at our mistakes, then we're bound to repeat them. And as much as I care for Africa and as proud as I am, I want to examine her errors so that they don't happen again. And when we go through this lesson plan, you're going to see that the same thing that was happening in the 6th dynasty, the same thing that was happening at the end of the 10th dynasty, which was brought in the 2nd intermediate period, is happening amongst us today. The only difference between yesterday and today is that today we are totally out of control of being in control. Back in Kemet, we had a choice. And we were the ones that drove ourselves to that point. Here, we have a whole system that assists us in driving us to that point. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is the 18th and 25th dynasty, but you cannot talk about the 18th and 25th dynasty without going back to the 5th dynasty. You can't understand how the 18th dynasty came into existence without going back to the end of the Pyramid dynasty and looking at the destruction of the African civilization in Kemet, not in Nubia, and not in Ethiopia. You're dealing with a specific location right in here, particularly Lower Kemet. But we're not talking about down here. This is strong, and this is growing, and this is getting better than it was yesterday. But here is going down. And it's going down because they raised themselves to such a level of richness and beauty that they began to abuse it. And the same thing is happening in the European society of today. This is how I know it's falling. And I don't need anybody to tell me. Neither do you. All you have to do is look, and this is the method to go by. Is your life happier today than it was yesterday? And I'm talking about the things that you pay for, the level of the atmosphere, the view, the ambiance of the society? Are people trusting one another? Is there something building? Do you notice that more and more stores are putting up those plexiglass or whatever it is? Gates. Is that happening less? Are people taking gates down, or are more people putting gates up? When you're looking at that, you're looking at the classes who have been oppressed rising. And when you see the classes rising, the first thing you want to look at is what is the society doing to correct that? All you have to do is look at Governor Cuomo and his plan for education. If you're ever looking at something in a society, look at what they hit when times get bad. Do they hit education for children? Do they hit senior citizens? Do they hit your medical rights? Do they hit the arts? The arts are key, you know. A society that has time to deal with the arts is a civilized society. A society that must take its art money and put it into the military complex or into their own self-centered plans, you can see what's happening to the society. If you lose your art, art is not entertainment. Dance and song is not entertainment. It never was amongst Africans. It was as viable a way of communicating as Imhotep was writing a medical book.
Well, it's funny you said that. It probably just happened Saturday in our community. That's how where we live at. There's only one check cashing place. And the radio.
Are there more check cashing places in the community now?
No, see, that's what I'm saying. See? In a 25 block or 35 block radius, one check cashing place. What they did was this, and this check cashing place is owned by a brother. Without letting nobody know anything, he sold out to a European, right? This European didn't have cash. Nobody's check because he did not know them personally, and told him they had to wait until Tuesday. Dependable error of station. But we found out that they're doing this, check out, like they did with the banks and whatnot, to control the people. Now, nobody's opening up any new stores or food supplies and stuff like this here. They're making the people become dependent in their lifestyle. So the people have nothing to say about it. He said, well, I don't know, you're waiting for something, because I don't know. Whether you have proper ID or not. I mean, this is to promote confusion. Like when a mother wants to feed kids one night, you can't cash it, supposed to be an exchangeable piece of paper for food stuff. When your baby is still hungry and whatnot, and you know you got to wait a period of 3 days, this is another way of like apartheid over that in the golf situation. This is what I'm saying. When it was up to that, there's a note that is coming up in my mind about reviewing all this history. And I find out the archaeologists or historians saying anything about it. They're not talking about dietary law. That's one thing about what our ancestors were practicing during these times. Or they're not talking about the hygienic practices. And those practices, what we need to do today, and I think that's why I just mentioned it, if we can't eat right, buy soap and stuff like this here to prepare our being, our body being, right, so we be within the body. If we can't eat the proper things, or we might find out about fasting, but that doesn't, help cleanse the body, which is another part of hygiene. All around the world, our brothers and sisters are getting sick because of toxic immune deficiency. I'm not basically talking about AIDS. See what I'm saying? I'm talking about because you get bad food or either no food at all and all this stuff like that, or not proper water. Because if we're not talking about the air, but not even proper water or proper sanitation. And our people are lost to this. We understand something. What we do with what we got in there, that's the best thing going. Yeah, that was good at that time to get us in here now, but if we keep doing that, we won't have no here now for the time to come. Until we get an idea